In Lab 12C, what we're going to be doing is pretty similar to what we did previously. We're going to create a HTML form which is going to be used to capture two pieces of information. The purpose of this PHP script is that it's going to calculate a person's body mass index. And to do that, the form needs to capture both the user's height and also their weight. And then the PHP script is going to output whether that person falls into one of three categories: normal weight or healthy weight, underweight or overweight, based on their body mass index. So if you go into Notepad, you can see here that I've set up the basic structure for both my HTML form, so all lowercase, just keeps it simpler, BMI _ form.html, and you can see that all I've got in here so far is the title and a heading which is going to be displayed on the page itself. And then I've also set up my BMI handle form, and again there's nothing in there at the moment. So if you want, you can go ahead and pause and set up your two pages so that you have them side by side. Okay, so let's get started with the form itself. The form name is simply going to be BMI form. In fact, let's do that in lowercase, so BMI form. And the action, if you remember, the action attribute is where are we sending this form? Well, we're going to send it to the BMI handle form, all lowercase. .php, you need to have a file extension as well. And remember that the default is get, but if you want to have a little bit of security for the data, you're going to use the post method, and that's what we're going to use. Okay, so three attributes inside your opening form tag: the name of the form, where it's going to go to via the action attribute, and what method you're going to use to send it there. And I'm actually just going to put that into, in fact, no, I'll open up a paragraph underneath. So first piece of information that we're going to ask for is the height. So I'm going to write, please enter your height in meters, and then we can put a break there. And in fact, let's put a colon at the end, so break. And then let's go down to the next line. And we're going to use input type. And because we're only asking for a fairly short value, we're just going to use the input type equals text. So we're just going to set up a normal text field. And as before, we're going to name it, and we're going to name it as height. And then let's just put in another break. And then what we want is obviously to actually close our paragraph before opening a new paragraph. Okay, so at the moment, if you save it and run it, okay, please enter your height in meters. You could have a bit more space, but it doesn't really matter. You could even have them on the same line, but I'm going to have them under each other. Okay, so next we want to create our new paragraph. And then we're going to type in, and in fact, let's do it on the same line, please enter your weight in kilograms, or just in kg for short. Okay, and input type is going to be exactly the same, but obviously the name is going to be weight. And then close that paragraph. Okay, so again, let's just save it and check that it's looking okay. Perfect. So all we have to add now is a submit button. So we're going to open up a new paragraph. We're going to write input type equals submit, and value equals, I'll just do a capital S so it looks a bit neater, submit. And that's what's going to be displayed on the button itself. And then we'll close that paragraph. Okay, so last time, save it and run it, and just check that everything is appearing as it should be. Okay, so that was fairly straightforward. I haven't added any comments because I think it's all fairly, well, we've done it in the previous lab. If you want to add comments, by all means, go ahead. Make sure that you're familiar with what each of these different attributes does. So we're going to go into the BMI handle form, and all I've done so far is set up the title and obviously put in the delimiters. And the first thing that we're going to do is obviously capture the values which are entered here, the height and the weight, and we're going to store them into variables, just like we did in the previous assignment. So I'm going to add comments as we go along. Assigns users height and weight into variables. Okay, and so we'll create a variable called height. Don't need to use our imagination too much here. And we will use, obviously, the post array in order to capture that data. And square brackets, that's important. Square brackets. Too tempting just to press shift, but no, square brackets. And then we will call the height. Again, it's got to be exactly the same as how you set it up in the form. Don't forget your semicolon, and then we'll do the same with the weight. Okay, and so that was just weight in lowercase. I swear my typing is getting worse. The longer this goes on, you'd think it'd be improving. Okay, so we've got our two variables set up there. We've got height equals height, obviously, and weight equals weight, as you would expect. And then what we want to do next, and I apologise because I didn't show you this at the beginning, so maybe I'll just go back. What we should get at the end of this is this output. It's going to tell you your height, which you know already because you input that, and your weight. But it's also going to tell you what the calculation of your body mass index is. And then it will show you this classification. And then this last step, having displaying a link back to the original form page, that's optional. I'm not going to show you how to do that, but it's easy enough to do. You just need a hyperlink to the correct page. Anyway, let's go back. And so what we want to do next is we want to output the user's height, weight, and calculated BMI. Okay, so we are going to use a series of print statements. And we're going to use a new function here that we haven't used before. You might have read about it because I know it's covered in one of the presentations. We're going to use what's known as the new line to break. And this is basically going to insert a line break wherever we put a new line character. Okay, you'll see how it works in just a moment. Okay, so we're going to use this function, and then we're going to open up our parameters and our quotation marks, and we're going to say your height is, and then we're obviously going to call the height variable. If you're using double quotation marks, which you have to, then you'll see that the height variable is bolded. And then we're going to use this new line character. So backward slash and then N. Close your quotation marks, close your brackets, close the statements. And so this new line symbol, you can put this anywhere, and wherever you put it, it will create a new line. Obviously, we're going to put it at the end, that makes the most sense. So let's do the same for the next statement. Again, using the new line to break function. This time your weight is and weight. And again, backward slash N, close your quotation marks, close your parameters, close your statements. And so what we want to do next is we want to actually calculate the BMI. So actually I'm going to just slightly rephrase this statement. So outputs user's height and weight, just to make it crystal clear what's happening here. And what we're going to do next is calculate the BMI. So this is a two-step process, and then output it. Okay, so we're going to create, we're going to create a new variable, which I think we will call BMI, and again, lowercase. And we're going to obviously do a calculation. So we're going to use BMI equals, and we're also going to use a round function here so that we don't end up with a ridiculously long number. And then the calculation is simply weight divided by another open bracket, and then we want height squared. So we're just going to put, height times, I told you the typing's going, height times height. Okay, so make sure that you follow that carefully. We want it to work, and obviously don't forget 2 closing parameters before you end the statements. Okay, so now we've done the calculated BMI. We obviously want to output it just like we did with the previous statements. So new line to break, and then your BMI is, and then let's call the BMI that we've just created, and then new line, close your quotations, close your parameters, close your statements. Okay, so just check that it's looking like this. Obviously we can't preview it or anything like that until, well, we have to upload it first, and just like with the previous page, the BMI form.html, you're going to have to upload both of these into week 12 of 000 web host, and then you're going to have to check that it's working by going into the BMI form, and you can also edit, this should be an apostrophe there, you can also edit this code. Once you've uploaded it to 000 web host, you can right click on the file and there's an option to edit it. So if you need to make any changes, if there's any errors in your code, you don't need to come back to Notepad and re-upload it each time. You can just do it directly within 000 web host. Okay, so far so good, but obviously we also want to output the classification. So we want to say, well, based on your BMI, you are in one of these 3 categories. And so our next step is to use, this is going back to last week, the if else statement, which is going to be used to output the weight classification based on the calculated BMI. Okay, so no more calculations. All we're going to do now is that straightforward if else statement. There are only 3 possibilities, so we need one if, one else if, and one else. And so I didn't put the conditions, I didn't put the categories on the assignment. I need to go back and do that. But basically, if they're under 18, if the BMI is calculated as being less than 18, then officially they are in the underweight category. So our first condition is going to be if the BMI is less than 18, and then close your parameters. I'm just looking to see if I've done anything wrong. I'm not sure why that's coming up in orange. Let me just double check. If BMI is less than 18, looks okay. I might come back to that though, because I don't think it should be in orange. Then we're going to print, this should make a difference. No. We're going to print, and again, we'll use the new line to break, and we're going to print classification is underweight. Okay, and then again, let's put our new line character at the end, and then let's close that, and let's go on to our next, let's close this first of all. So we're going to go into our else if, and obviously after else if we also need to have a condition. So our condition is going to be, does the BMI fall between 18 and 25? And if it does, that puts them into the normal weight. So BMI greater than or equal to 18, and keyword BMI less than or equal to 25. And if that's the case, we're going to print classification normal weight. Oops, should be an N. And then let's close that off. And then obviously, let's close the curly brace as well. And then obviously we're into our else statement, and we know that the else statement does not require a condition. So we're simply going to have else print. And so if they are not under 18 and they are not between 18 and 25, then they have to be over 25. And so if that's the case, they're going to fall into the classification overweight. Okay, let's put the new line character, and then let's close it. Okay, and then don't forget to close your curly brace. Okay, and that is essentially it. Like I said, if you want, I think I was being paranoid about the colours. I've just never really noticed that they turn orange. If you want, what you can do is you can also add in this extra line of code to create a hyperlink, obviously using the anchor tag, to create a link which is going to take you back to the initial form. So if, for example, you'd input the incorrect values or you wanted to try out different values, then this is a quick and easy way to get back to the original page. But that's optional. Okay, it's up to you whether you want to do that or not. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this up, and obviously once you have completed both of these, you're going to upload them and you're going to make sure that they work. And then for this lab, you're simply going to upload the hyperlink to the BMI form.html. Okay, so give that a go and see how you get on.